During the first day of Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson's confirmation hearings, and by the first day, I mean Monday, the former president, Donald Trump, attempted to do some counter programming wherein he gave an interview to Fox Business host Stuart Varney. And this was a very dangerous and corrosive interview. And we're going to look at a couple of clips of it. And there is one segment here where Donald Trump provocatively wants to talk about the N-word, but it's not the N-word you think of. He's talking about nuclear or nuclear, depending on your preferred pronunciation. Here is Donald Trump talking about Putin and nuclear.
Well, and hope to God you never have to use it, because that would be the tragedy of all tragedies. But if we didn't have it, we couldn't talk. But I listened to him constantly using the N-word. That's the N-word. And he's constantly using it, the nuclear word.
Right.
And we never talk. We say, oh, he's a nuclear power.
So Trump there, I don't know if he thinks it's clever or what to refer to nuclear as the N-word, but Stuart Varney is visibly perplexed by it. Then Stuart Varney made a big mistake. Stuart Varney tried asking Donald Trump about policy. And as you know, and as I know, and as many of our viewers know, when you ask Trump about policy, you do not get an answer. It's almost satirical at this point.
To watch.
There's this discussion about whether we should send jets, MiG jets, to help the Ukrainian Air Force. Would you send in that kind of help?
Well, maybe even more, to be honest with you. And I'm the one that would have stayed out. I'm the one that would have stayed out. Let me just explain that Putin is saying things like, don't you dare send anything in. In the meantime, he's killing thousands of people. So he's acting like we're an aggressor. If we send in some old 44-year-old plane that probably gets shot out of the sky pretty quickly, and he's acting like we're terrible people if we do that. But he's killing tens of thousands of people, far more than they're reporting. You don't knock down those buildings and blow up those buildings and they say 2 people were injured slightly.
Yeah. So the question was, would you send in the jets? And Trump says, I might even send more. And then the question is, well, what exactly would you send? And Trump's off on a tangent. He later Varney is able to get Trump back on track. And then there's the question of, well, OK, what exactly would you do? And Trump says, well, I might send nuclear subs to intimidate.
Nobody knows where they are. And you should say, look, if you mention that word one more time, we're going to send them over and we'll be coasting back and forth up and down your coast. You can't let this tragedy continue. You can't let these thousands of people die. It's going to be hundreds of thousands and maybe millions of people by the time it ends.
Right. So I guess Trump is, at the same time that he has been very hesitant to criticize Vladimir Putin, and at the same time that he delayed sending military aid to Ukraine because he wanted dirt on Biden, he's also saying he would be more aggressive than Joe Biden, but at the same time saying he would have kept us out of wars. So as you can tell, this is what we might call in the academic world a very complicated text. If you would keep us out of wars, why would you be doing more aggression than Joe Biden? It's all sort of confusing. Later, the topic goes, and this is a very dangerous topic for the former president, climate change. And Varney asks a very specific question, and Trump gives a very bizarre answer.
What about climate
by somebody
change?
That I don't even think ever took a course in the environment.
Is the climate Is the climate changing because of human activity?
In my opinion, you have a thing called weather, and you go up and you go down. If you look into the 1920s, they were talking about global freezing. Okay, in other words, the globe was going to freeze. And then they go global warming. Then they couldn't use that because the temperatures were actually quite cool and many different things. So now they just talk about climate change. The climate's always been changing.
Okay, so and as we know, Donald Trump is one of the foremost authorities on climate and as well as on renewable energy, right? I mean, you guys remember his expertise there.
The noise causes cancer.
Yeah. So lastly, in this, it was a sort of like a subdued, low energy Trump. He almost sounded slightly ill. Maybe he had just woken up. Varney asks Trump what should be the let me see how I can even. Trump says the focus for Republicans in 2022 and 2024 should be how Joe Biden stole the election from him in 2020.
If we go into 2022, the elections,
by the way,
2024, and you're still looking back to the election of 2020 and saying that you really won, I don't think that's very good for you or the Republican Party.
It's not.
You want to comment on that?
Well, I actually think it is good for me, and I think if we don't put out all of the crooked things, and we know what they are, that you won't win in 22 and you won't win in 24.
I think what Trump means is if we don't keep talking about that, people will forget about me.
We don't get to it. So I think it's the opposite, actually. And I talk nothing about, nobody talks more about the future
you
than
think
I do.
that
But
2022,
you also have to look back to
you think that 2022 and 2024 are all about the 2020 election?
Right.
Really?
No. I think for us to win the election, we have to know how they cheated, because otherwise they'll cheat again. And we do know how they cheated.
Okay.
And the Republicans...
Well, but so then why do you need to talk about it, right? I mean, it doesn't make any sense. What this is really just, it needs to be about me for the next 3 years.
And Democrats should, but they won't. Republicans have to do something about it, or they're going to be very disappointed. And nobody talks more about the future than I do. But you have to learn from history also, and you can't let it happen again, Stuart.
Right.
So,
Right. That would be a real shame, as Donald Trump likes to say. So a very strange interview and sort of an attempt at counter-programming the confirmation hearings of Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson. There it is. We'll have the clips on our Instagram, which you can find at David Pakman Show. And I'll have more information for you about upcoming events that we'll be covering very soon. One of our sponsors today is IMI, the world's first low-carb, high-protein, 100% plant-based instant ramen. IMI has only 6 net carbs, perfect if you're doing keto or low-carb. Unlike regular ramen, it has 21 grams of protein, helping you feel fuller longer. 18 grams of fiber, that's 4 times more than most other ramen brands. And IMI also has 35% less sodium than competitors, so you don't get that bloat and thirst. IMI uses only high-quality ingredients. They don't use a lot of preservatives that many other ramen brands use. I love making IMI ramen as a snack, just like any other instant ramen. You put it in the microwave, ready in a few minutes. I love adding green onion and mushrooms to it. IMI comes in spicy beef, tom yum shrimp, black garlic chicken. I've tried all 3. They're all delicious, and they're plant-based. Right now, IMI is giving my audience $5 off when you go to IMIEats.com/Pakman and use the code Pakman. The link is down below.